Welcome back to the wonderful adventures of Dillard Taunt and the Identity Crisis Gang. Today we're going to be starting off by taking care of some so-called Paladins of Tyr on Karlach's behalf. Disguising your wrongdoings under the name of Tyr is an especially deceitful act, as Tyr is the god of justice and delights in right-doing and protecting of the weak. And Dillard is absolutely going to allow none of that, so it's time that we go and dispense some justice of our own. From here on out, the battles are only going to get tougher, so you're going to see me using actual strategy to handle these fights. Dillard prides himself as a great judge of character, so before the battle even begins, he asks Lae'zel and Asterion to do some prep work. While Dillard keeps the quote-unquote paladin distracted, Lae'zel very sneakily moves behind and places down some souvenirs from her time aboard the Nautiloid. Luckily for us, the paladin's friend is very polite and doesn't want to interrupt the conversation to warn him of the impending danger. With everything placed and everyone safely in position, Dillard is free to conclude his interrogation.
I know what you are.
Don't let her hurt us. Please, we just want to go home.
Unfortunately, Dillard's instincts about this group proved to be correct.
There's something in the squint of his eye. You suspect he's lying.
And with that, we were off to the races. Now I know what you're thinking. It doesn't seem very fair to start with a massive sneak attack from an inordinate amount of explosions on these people. But you gotta remember, we are essentially level 1 characters. Just level 1 in a lot of different classes, so we really have to take every advantage we can, especially against these stronger foes. Case in point, even with all those advantages, Karlach almost died. We finished up our visit here with a quick little trip to the basement and a nice little sit and some good and proper looting before we took our departure. After that, Dillard decided it was time to fix the gaping hole in his head that he called a brain. And he knew just the place to do it. As you can see, the original plan was to blow up these ogres after having a conversation with them and ruling out peace as an option. But as it turned out, peace was an option. And not only that, we might be able to use these folks to our benefit a little further down the line. I know I can't stress this enough, but we need every advantage that we can get. So with Lump's horn in hand, an insidious plot began to brew in the back of Dillard's mind. But we'll get back to that later. In the meantime, I thought it was time to pay that nice old lady who offered to help us out a visit. And while on our way to her house, wouldn't you know it, we find her being accosted on the side of the road.
For the love of all that is holy, I've never clapped eyes on your poor sister.
Drop the act, hag. You was the last to see me, Rena.
Just let her go. Please.
Okay, so maybe accosted isn't the right word. There might have been more to this story than meets the eye. And as we've already established, Dillard is a great judge of character. So, after seeing through her disguise, he decided that maybe, just maybe, Auntie Ethel wasn't the most trustworthy person in this situation.
Bollocks! Thanks for ruining my fun.
Still, it's always good to make sure that you're getting both sides of the story. So we decide the best way to do that is to go and pay her a visit at her own house. And here we get to see a great example of what benefits having a level in every class gives you. And that's that you're able to pick all of the class-specific options related to the classes that you have. So, after calling upon the powers of his warlock patron, Dillard realizes that the other side to this story is probably not one that he wants to hear.
The wilderness changes. A swamp, stinking and insidious, assaults your senses.
During our exploration of this swampy marsh, we come across a battle where we realize that we are vastly outnumbered. So once again, it's time to put on our thinking caps to figure out how best to handle this. And really, the best thing to do when you're outnumbered is to funnel all of your enemies into a tight space. Then, if you can set up a barricade between yourself and them so you can fire pot shots at them, even better. And even better than having a barricade that you can fire pot shots from is a barricade that explodes once you get enough people around it. Although, I'd strongly recommend that you remove yourself from the blast zone before detonating it. With only one remaining literal scrub lord to clean up, this fight was as good as won. While investigating, we do find something interesting stashed away here. A letter that was meant for Kaga's eyes only, and it indicates that she is in fact a shadow druid who is trying to close off the grove for the sake of the shadow druids claiming it. I think it's high time that we went back and paid Kaga another visit. But only after we take some time to bawd some redcaps, as it's an easy way to get some quick approval from Astarion and Karlach. On our way back, we make sure to finish out the questline regarding saving Arabella's life, if, for nothing else, another artifact that we can feed Gale and not really experience any loss from. And now it was time to confront Kaga.
I sent you to Zevlor. What?
Now that the jig is up, the rats around her are revealed to have been shadow druids the entire time. And say what you will about their beliefs, but they definitely have some sense of fashion going on. Things are looking bleak, but it's never too bleak for Dillard to talk his way out of it. So he makes a last desperate plea to Kaga's remaining goodness, hoping to help save her from the shadows that have consumed her. And only barely making it. For the first check at least. The second one, he absolutely crushed.
When the darkest hour fell, it was us that brought light. Sylvanas demands we illuminate shadow, not hide within it. How was I so blind?
Careful, Koga. The shadows don't forgive.
I belong to the shadows no longer. You've no power over me.
And just like that, a fight that could have been us versus almost everyone else in the room is now 3 lonely shadow druids against the entire might of the Grove, and 4 people who are currently trying to find their life's career path. Which is really good, because apart from Lae'zel and Karlach landing their attacks, we were not the most helpful in this fight. Luckily, it turns out that forcing them all into a corner where they can constantly be hit by a barrage of moonbeams and entangling vines makes them quick work even when they severely outlevel us. From there, we want to stop by Zevlor and tell him the good news about stopping the ritual and that the tieflings get to stay in the grove. This is because he's going to give us some gloves that synergize super well with all the healing words that we've been casting.
My people make the most of it. But here, left over from my soldiering days.
These are the Hellrider's Pride, which grant bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing resistant to any target that you heal. After that, it was time for a long rest, and an unfortunate revelation about our long-fanged elf friend.
Something is wrong. Or maybe you just get lucky.
Shit.
There, in the dim firelight, you see him for what he really is. A vampire, a slave to sanguine hunger.
How could we possibly have seen this coming? In the end, though, Astarion did politely ask if he could have some of our blood, and Dillard, being the friend that he is, wasn't going to turn him down in his hour of need.
Fades to throbbing numbness. Your breath catches, your pulse quickens.
He was, however, going to make sure that he stopped before he got drank completely dry.
Oh, of course. That was amazing.
So, with Astarion's new bite ability unlocked, Him happy, me bloodless, and the rest of the team fully rested, it was time to resume our journey and put a diabolical plan into practice. Even without all of our handicaps, we were underleveled for the fight with the Redcaps, so we were going to be calling in some backup. With the help of Lump and friends, this fight was going surprisingly smoothly. The Redcaps were not dealing a lot of damage, and were dying very quickly. More quickly than we actually wanted. You see, the true target of this fight was not actually the Redcaps, it was Lump himself. We wanted to hunt down these ogres for two reasons, and be very clever about it. The first, of course, being that these ogres are evil. They eat people, they are siding with the goblins, and they'll work for whoever pays them enough money, which in this case was us. The second reason is that Lump's enlightenment isn't a natural phenomenon. It's coming from a headband of intellect that he's forced onto his oversized cranium. And we really want that headband of intellect. Now we have to start attacking Lump while he is still fighting for us, for three specific reasons. The first being that he'll let us attack him up to 3 times before he actually considers us a threat. The second is that after the battle concludes, Lump and his cohorts will generally heal back up to full. And the third, if you're fighting Lump and his cohorts and they're taking too much damage, they may just flee from the fight and you will never see them again. So even with all that scheming and plotting, we still had 2 of our companions, including Dillard, almost die. But it was well worth it in the end, as now we finally had our warped headband of intellect, which raised our intellect up to a respectable 17 from the previous 8 that it was. With Dillard's new big brain thinking skills, he decided it was time to pay old Auntie Ethel a visit.
Auntie Ethel, please. One more bite and this pie is gonna come back up to say hello.
Don't make me get the wooden spoon. You're eating for 2, so get to it.
We had found the sister of the 2 brothers, and earlier, off camera, we found their corpses on the way here. Both Auntie Ethel and Asterion wanted us to keep that information under wraps. But you know what they say, if something can be destroyed by the truth, it deserves to be destroyed by the truth.
I detest rudeness.
You monster! The deal is off!
Enough, away with you. And you'll regret sticking your nose in my business.
Sticking his nose in people's business is what Dillard does best, and he hasn't regretted it yet. Although, this transformation is giving him some second thoughts. Shockingly, after all that bluff and bluster, Auntie Ethel makes a quick getaway through her illusory fire escape.
Oh, and enjoy my well water.
Which is all fine and dandy, because that means the vast amount of potions and alchemical supplies that she keeps stored in her house are now ripe for the picking. So one good loot later, and we are on our way, because we actually want to wait a little bit before we go and confront Auntie Ethel in her lair. Before we clean up the mess that is Auntie Ethel, we need to clean up some of the goblin problems that have started to propagate throughout this lovely land. And what better place to start than these goblins that are aspiring aeronautical engineers, but seem to have a very poor understanding of aerodynamics and flight in general.
Those wings some more, and I'll feed you a worm.
As usual, Dillard's massive power of persuasiveness comes in handy, and he is able to convince all of them to leave peacefully, which not only resolves this without us getting our hands dirty, but gives us a massive boost to our experience.
Supposed to bring him to... I said we're leaving!
Enough experience, in fact, for us to begin our next level up. This time, Dillard is multi-classing into Ranger to keep taking advantage of his dex and also get him proficiency with heavy armor, which is something that we're going to need much further down the line. Astarion I thought could do with a little bit more of a positive influence in his life, so I assigned him to become a cleric, worshipping Lathander, god of new beginnings and rebirth. Perfect for a vampire trying to find his way in the mortal world. While Lae'zel may lack the dexterity and wisdom needed to fully optimize the monk class, having those extra attacks and bonus unarmed attacks is still going to be very helpful down the line. And at this point you guys know, what's good for the Gith is good for the Tiefling, so Karlach follows suit. To maximize the utility of Will's charisma, we're going the sorcerer path, along with a spritz of wild magic to give him that benefit of being able to roll with advantage, and just for the fun of the chaos that it brings. As always, I'm really not sure what to do with Gale, so I slap Ranger on him, give him some heavy armor proficiency, and call it a day. Much to my own surprise, I actually did a lot of Rangers this level, because having people who are proficient with every type of armor really opens up the possibilities that they can get from set bonuses. So, Shadowheart also joins the Ranger Club. And thus ends the third chapter in Dillard Taunt's adventure. I just wanted to take some time to say thank you. I never anticipated that any of my videos would reach 100 views. I know that's not a lot as far as YouTube goes, especially for Baldurs Gate content, but it means a lot to me that there are so many people who are enjoying this journey with me. So, if you want to keep following along, like and subscribe, and I will see you all next time.